My name is Lee Dunham and co-host of Swanzey Then and Now for another show. I have with me my co-host, Jody Turner. And we're going to talk to you today about the schools in Swanzey, how they've changed over years and what we have today. So,
I did a little bit of research, and becoming a teacher or being a teacher in Swanzey was not an easy job.
no, your salary was in the annual report every year.
And in the very beginning, I read that the men would teach in the winter, and the women would teach in the summer. And if you were a good teacher, that was wonderful. But if you weren't, you would be written up in the town reports. And they really thought that being tardy was a terrible thing. You needed to go to school when you were supposed to be there. You had to do whatever you were supposed to do. And there were some really good teachers, too.
Yes, there were some good ones, and there's also not so good.
But some of the more notable teachers, and we'll get into this as we go out on location to some of the schools possibly, but some of the teachers were thought of as great role models to teach children how they were supposed to act and to be polite and to learn what was the correct manners.
Yeah, and you look at our schools back in the late 1800s, and I just came off a tour with the Y, so I was just down in Amish country.
Right.
We go into an Amish mock-up of an Amish school, and they get taught to the 8th grade. Their teachers are women, unmarried women, and once they get married, they don't teach anymore. I mean, the parallels to 1800s New England are just immense.
Yeah.
And we try to show that to the kids, and that's...
They probably have no idea. Like, they can't imagine
Well,
what it must have been like in a one-room schoolhouse with all the grades together.
Yeah, and it's pretty much the same thing. Is your lower grades were in the front, and as you went up through the school, you moved to the back of the class.
Right.
And you helped your other students.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So from what I understand also, the schools were run by the states, I think, at one time, and then they went back down to the communities.
Yeah, and I think that happens somewhere in that late 1800s, early 1900s.
Right.
When we now have a school board.
Yeah.
And when you start looking at the old, as they evolved, when they got into supervisory unions and stuff like that, and trying to teach the same things at all schools. Now, that sounds a little bit, not so great to us, but think of it back in the day when there were 10, 11, 12 schools in town.
Right.
Because you didn't have the bus system, you didn't have, a school would sprout up pretty much
Wherever
all over
needed.
the place, wherever the families had kids.
Because every child was supposed to be able to have a chance to go to school.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's look at some of the older schoolhouses in Swanzey. I don't know where a lot of these are, so I'm going to have to rely on you to Lee. Okay.
We don't have them all. This is schoolhouse number 9, which is down on Route 32. The schoolhouse is on the left there.
Where would that be on 32?
Well, right where Westbrook Court. Westbrook Court would be on the on the right-hand side of this picture.
Yeah.
So that's the southern part of Route 32.
Right.
And that is called schoolhouse number 8. That's no longer there. And of course, schoolhouse 9 is no longer there either. But this was up on, I'll get it wrong. No, I won't. Pebble Hill Road.
Okay.
That is schoolhouse number 4, and that house still exists, but you never see it. That is on Route 32, just before the Safford's place, a couple houses before.
On the same side of the road?
Same side of the road, actually.
Up on the hill a little bit back away from the road?
If we want to give it away, it's where the Currys.
Oh.
Greg and Ann.
Wow.
So,
okay, I wouldn't have pictured that, but now I can picture it now.
It does not look like that anymore. It's been built on.
It's got a.
And I've heard that they have the sign.
Oh,
for
really?
the school. Every school had a sign, a little black sign on it that said which district they were.
Yeah, it is amazing to see how they've used, reused, and moved, and made the best uses of a lot of these older buildings. And
Yeah.
the big windows that they had, and the maps and everything. So anyway, very interesting. Okay, let's look at another one.
That is another picture of schoolhouse number 9, down on Route 32. That's
Right, looking from the other direction.
Yeah, looking across the road to it.
Yeah,
So-
like the airport would be where we are looking towards it.
Well, that's schoolhouse number 9.
I
That's
know, I'm
way
both-
down south, yeah.
Oh, right, yeah, yeah. Okay,
That is where my grandmother taught. That is schoolhouse number 5.
and where was that?
That's Causeway Road on your right.
Oh,
That's where there's Crossing Road on the left going around the corner.
so that's kind of where the yellow building is that has horses or something?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It would be behind it, and that's
Yeah.
actually where they got their water. There was no well. So they paid Mr. Worcester, I think it was, like $2 or so a year for the kids to go over and draw water from his well and bring it back to the school.
wow. Well, that was good for the kids to have something like
Well,
a
the
chore.
kids had chores.
Yeah.
Right? And, if you heated it with wood, guess who brought the wood in?
Well, somebody's got to do it, and it's a good way to get them to, learn responsibility. Okay, let's see. This one here
That
is
one, no longer there either.
okay.
But,
And where was this? And what number?
This is Westport.
Oh, this is Westport. Okay. Was
Westport,
that right in the
and-
little town of
and
Westport?
I think it was, yes. Well, it's right just up the hill from the Slate Bridge, right at the corner that heads
Yeah.
toward Swanzey Lake.
Yeah.
Now you're seeing another picture. This is schoolhouse number 9.
Oh, but it has trees.
It has trees, but look at the windows. They're boarded up.
Oh.
It's after it's closed.
Ah.
I noticed that as
Yeah.
It's a nice picture of it. But,
Yeah.
But all the windows are boarded. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That is schoolhouse number 1, which would be on, I'll call it Old Lake Street, but it's now called Underwood Road.
Okay. Now, is that the first schoolhouse?
That is the first schoolhouse in North Swansea,
North
or
Swansea.
Factory Village.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've got Mount Caesar Academy, we'll call it, if you want to talk about schools.
Right.
That's what it was first built for, is
Right.
Mount Caesar Academy.
Wasn't it called the Unitarians that
The
set it up?
Unitarians are the ones that put it up,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a contest to see who could raise the most money.
Right.
Swansea won.
Right.
This is back when academies were the way to get your education.
Yeah.
Denman
Yeah.
Thompson
exactly.
actually went to
and
that.
he only went to 8th grade, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And that was his only education. Was
yeah, he was
there.
here 3 years, so
Right.
it's 3 winters he went
Yeah.
to school.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
schoolhouse number 2. That is in East Swansea.
And that's still there.
That is still there.
And it's in great condition.
It looks pretty much like it does still.
It does. Yeah.
It is a private residence.
Yeah.
Across the street, there is the
the community house.
community house, and the connection there is when schoolhouse number 2 got so overwhelmed with students, they actually put students in the community house.
Right.
So
Right. And there was a baseball field in the back,
Yeah.
and I think they might have had carriage houses at one time. So this area was really utilized
yeah.
for
And that
what it was needed.
Schoolhouse number 2. That's the second. It's actually the 3rd building, but the second location.
For that building?
For that, not that building.
Okay.
They first started out with a building smaller,
Mm-hmm.
1 story. It was further up Old Richmond Road,
Mm-hmm.
about half a mile. And then, I don't know if that one burned. I don't know if that one burned, but I think they took that down and used it to build the second one, which was in this location.
Mm-hmm.
That burned, and then they built this 2-story one.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So we've got another picture. It looks up pretty close to the other one. And then another photograph. This is more like what it looks like today.
this is what it looks like today.
Yeah.
It's still got that sign on the front of it.
Right, right. It's just beautiful.
Now,
I'm so glad that they've
the
kept it.
bell that was in that
Yes.
is on top of the front
The-
entry to
The community
house.
Yeah, yeah.
When they sold it off, they took it out and put it over there.
Ah, I wondered how it got over there, because that was one of the things that we were talking about. We did a show earlier in the year about the East Swansea Community House. And at first, when you look at the community house, it does not have a bell tower. And then they
Right.
built one so that they could put that
So they
bell
could
on
put it
now.
in.
Now
Yeah.
we know.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's see.
And that bell was given to them by a former, resident of town.
Ah,
So
yeah. So this is a reunion?
that is a 1917 reunion of students. So quite a few of them showed up.
Look
for
at how
that.
many students. That's a lot of kids.
So I'm sure it's
And they
multiple.
don't-
It's multiple years, but
But still, that's a lot of community
they had
members.
a program and everything.
Yeah.
And they went down the street to where I told you that old school was.
Right.
There was an old rock that they used to all play on.
Yeah.
And they took a picture of
Yeah.
some of them on
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Now, this was the factory school.
Yep, that has two names to it. It was first built, these are built in the 20s, maybe just a little bit before that. About $4,000 is all we paid to build these things. Now, this would end up being renamed the Hopkins School
Oh,
in honor of Dr. Arthur Hopkins,
Right.
who was our moderator. He was a school doctor, and I think he was on the school board as well.
yeah,
So.
yeah. And we'll show that photograph again a little bit later because we're going to talk about some of the elementary schools.
So that's still there too, and
Yeah.
again, you're not going to recognize it. It's Kingdom Hall, where
Right.
the Jehovah
Yeah,
Witnesses
so start
are.
thinking about that. That's Route 32. Doesn't look anything like it does back in that
Yeah.
picture. So,
Yeah.
so the next photograph we have is of a report card. I don't know if you're going to be able to read this or not, but this was for my grandmother, Eleanor Lane Forcier. And it's pretty interesting to see all of the things that they got marked on. So they got marked on absentees, tardiness, days present, deportment, reading, spelling, writing, arithmetic, geography, grammar, U.S. history, physiology, science, and music. And if you look at the next page, it lists all of her marks. And in the very beginning of the year, she did pretty poorly. For the first 6 weeks, she was either fair or poor. By, let's see, she had an exam, and the six of the 6 weeks, she now was excellent or admirable. So I don't know what they did to fix her, but she really became a much nicer person to be around, I guess. Some of the other things they had were, let's see, her preparation, whether she was rude or not, whether she was mischievous. So they really were trying to make some very well-rounded students.
We haven't talked about the pageant of historic Swansea or whatever it was called there that was done. But they had one of the scenes was a schoolhouse scene, and I think I talked to somebody there who was actually a kid in that scene, and he said, "Oh yeah, they had the dunce cap and the stool and the."
Did they really do that?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, if we saw it today, we'd probably everybody'd be upset.
Oh, they'd be sued. My gosh.
But
Defamation.
they did.
Yeah.
Now, oh no, I won't go there. But the Amish, one kid asked, these are 8th grade kids, what do they do for discipline? And she said, well, if somebody was acting up, she'd draw a circle on the board and put a dot in the middle of it. And the kid would have to stand with his nose on that dot for as long as she told him.
Wow.
Like, they got opened up to what
Right.
discipline was.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's a lot better than having the ruler,
Yeah.
or any of that kind of stuff. So, I mean, you can do things pretty simply and make some changes in attitudes. But from what I understand, not all the children in Swansea were always the best children either.
Well, maybe not.
No, a lot of you had a lot of different kinds of people in Swansea. You had the people that were out in the woods, the loggers.
Yeah.
You had people
Well,
that
the mill.
owned
mills
the mills. Yeah. I mean, there was all kinds of different people around. And, from what I read a little bit too, is they did think that the parents had a lot to do with it. And so the schools did feel that there was a responsibility there as a parent to take care of your child and to make sure that they were
Yes, and back
polite.
then, if you got in trouble at school, you were in trouble at home.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was the teachers did a great job of bringing children up the way that they needed to in school, but it was the community and the parents that needed to help as well. Okay, so let's go to the Wilcox School now.
yes, this is Wilcox School. This
Swansea
was built,
Center.
Yeah, this was built in the 20s. Again, probably about $4,200 or so to build it. When they built this, you have to understand, now we're going away from the one-room schoolhouses. We're getting into, schoolhouse number 2 was 2 floors. In 1876, they built Cutler School. Now you've got four rooms, 2 upstairs, 2 downstairs. And then this is built. You've got Hopkins School built about the same time. So you're getting out, you're starting to weed out your one-room schoolhouses.
Right.
You're getting into, I'll say less teachers, but, you know. And that's that next phase of what Swanzey did.
Right, right. So the next photograph that we have this is Cutler?
This is Cutler in the 50s.
Right.
And why it's
Now,
the 50s.
this is after, so we're going to,
Yeah.
the timing is going to be off on these a little bit.
Yeah, this is the 50s. Why it's the 50s is because there's a two-story addition in the back. If we saw it in the late 40s, because 1945, the building burned.
Right.
And it lost the 2 stories that are not on this one anyway.
Yeah.
But miraculously, they put those kids back into school. Half of them went to Keene, half of them stayed here within a month. So it's kind of a crazy fast story that you couldn't do it now.
And actually, Leon Nikiforakis, to quote him, I believe they were back in 3 days.
Yeah.
I don't know if all the students were, but he was back in 3 days.
Well, put it mildly, the fire happened, fortunately.
During vacation.
During vacation.
February vacation.
Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah. Okay, another time.
There is Cutler School as it was first built.
Yeah.
2 stories, 4 rooms, 2 upstairs, 2 downstairs. Now, the interesting thing, you see that cupola there? The 8th graders, before they graduated, go up inside that and carve their name or initials.
Is it still around?
No. When the place burnt, that was gone. So.
That's so sad.
Yeah. But you can still see its likeness in
Right.
that little tower that's
Yeah.
now down at the West Swanzey AA location.
Right. Now, let's go back, because that photograph was the fire.
Yeah, I just saw the fire. That's what she looked like after the fire.
Yeah.
She just gutted the top floor.
Do they know what happened? What started the fire?
I don't know as I have read what actually started it.
Yeah.
It was called in by a neighbor, so
Yeah.
nobody was there.
Yeah,
when
middle of
it
the night, I
started.
think it was. Yeah. Okay, so Dr. Hopkins.
Yeah.
Now, we did a
there's-
show on pet pills and politics.
Right.
He was the local doctor.
He was a local doctor in West Swansea. He was the school doctor. So if you had any trouble at school, he was the one you'd see. He was also our town moderator
Right.
and was a member of the Grange, Lincoln Grange in
Right.
West Swansea. He did all sorts of things.
Yeah. So a
But
big
they
part of the
honored
community.
him by changing the name to Hopkins.
So again, this is the building that is on Route 32, closer
Yeah.
to where the airport, like if you were going down to the buildings that you can go to, not where the restaurant is,
Yeah.
but it's where the...
Well, it's where the airport started.
Exactly, right.
If you went in the 60s to the terminal,
That's where it
there.
was.
Yeah.
Right. And so that is now the Jehovah Witness
Yeah.
Church, or what, I don't know if they call it a church or not, but
Yeah, it's the Kingdom Hall.
Kingdom Hall, right.
Yeah.
And so really, next time you go by, take a look.
You won't
Stay
see
on the
anything
road.
of it.
But you can,
Yeah,
if
for
you
the
look at
longest-
it,
yeah.
it's got the front part that has been put on, but I went by it the other day because I wanted to see it. And you can see where it would have been, but it
Yeah,
has
for
been
the
added to.
Yeah, for the longest time, it did look like, sort of like that. And
Yeah.
then they did a whole renovation.
Yeah.
And when they did that, boy.
Yeah,
changed
took it
it.
all, yeah. So now we're moving closer to Monadnock.
Yeah, that's 1962.
So there was a groundbreaking.
Yeah.
So we have a photograph of that.
My dad was he's on the school board when this happened, so I actually can see his Renault station, it's not a station wagon, it's like a van, parked on the side of the road. This is the groundbreaking ceremony. This would be the parking lot now. But it was a field, that's all it was.
Yeah.
And if you look closely at that picture, you find, I forget whether it was first graders or eighth graders, might have been eighth graders, from Mount Caesar across the way, because and a lot of people don't understand this. You know, hey, we go first, second at Mount Caesar, we go the rest of the grades to
Wilcox.
6 over at Cutler.
Cutler, excuse me.
And then we come over to Monadnock. Well, back then, we went 8 grades in Mount Caesar. If you lived in North Swansea, Swansea Center, or East Swansea, you went to Cutler if you were in West Swansea. So they took kids out of school and went over to the groundbreaking that were going to attend the school the next year.
I think that's a great idea.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. So how did they decide to build a school for Monadnock?
I don't know as I know the answer to that. I didn't ask my dad all these questions that I should have and could have.
So that's just a reminder to you folks.
Yeah, but you know, at that point, the idea of Swansea couldn't afford a school all by itself, and that's why in the early days, in the 50s and 40s and 50s, you know, you went 8th grade to Swansea schools, and then you went to Keene, and we paid tuition.
Right.
Some kids went to Troy if they lived over that way. Some people went to Winchester if they lived on the south end. But most everybody went to Keene High for those 4 years. And they didn't feel that they could provide enough students to have a decent education, you know, well-rounded, whatever. So they went into this idea of regional school. And that's sort of getting its lumps right now, but...
Right. Well, it's hard. It covers a large area.
Yeah, and it's gotten to the point, you know, because the enrollment's been going down, and then it's harder to try to keep the small schools open, so they start closing ones in outlying towns, and then
It's a balance.
They get upset and they leave. And,
Yeah, it's hard. It really is hard because you know you have people that have a passion for what they're doing, and they've had tradition, so it is really tough to do that. So let's look at the layout then for Monadnock. Oh, this is Mount.
Now we went to Mount Caesar.
Yeah, sorry. This is Mount Caesar before, probably at the same time, probably that.
Well, Mount Caesar. This is a 1953 shot of Mount Caesar.
Oh, so it was before.
It opened up in 52. Actually, it opened.
That's so hard to believe. When you look at that building, it looks so modern. It looks like it was built in like the 60s.
I want you to look at that building right there, because I looked at it and then it just dawned on me what I was looking at. If you look at Mount Caesar right now, because they've torn down the chicken coop things that they added to it. But there's 3 classrooms on this side, on the 32 side. There's only 2 on that. When they first built it, there was only 2 classrooms on this side, on the 32 side. What happened was in the 50s, as we started building more houses and you got new schools, people liked coming to Swansea, well, the population grew.
Right.
So that's why when you look at Cutler School, it has, if you see right after the fire, they build 2 rooms on the back. Well, in another less than 10 years, they've built up and 2 more classrooms. Mount Caesar adds on. It's just, we were just growing.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is the layout for Monadnock?
This is the architect's view. I thought that was a good thing to throw in there, because if you look at it, that's the school that was built. But look in the background, and you see a baseball field where a football field is, and a football field where a baseball field is. They got it sort of right, but not. That was architecture's.
Yeah. Take a little liberty. I don't know who any of these students are.
I don't know what year you got, but I think that's an early year.
Yep.
Looking at the dresses and the hairstyles,
I'd say it's 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah. 70s
Probably
maybe.
when they still had a dress code.
Right.
That went away. Rivets on the
I remember
jeans.
that. I do.
It went away when I was there. So.
Yeah. And then we have a photograph of the Swansea Historical Museum. You know, a lot of this information can be found at the museum. History of Swansea, things that your parents did, your grandparents, your friends, your family. So I encourage people to go to the Swansea Historical Museum. When is it open, Lee? It starts opening in...
Opens up around Memorial Day.
Okay. And it's open through like October, like Labor Day maybe?
Yeah, they go to Columbus Day, but sometimes it might go a week or 2 after. It's all when we can get people to sit and open it up. So.
Right. So if you're interested in volunteering, I'm sure that they'd love to hear from you as well. So we have some information if you're interested. I have a couple of books that I've used along the way. So Swansea Hometown Ripples by Helen what's her name?
Ward Adams.
Helen Ward Adams.
Yeah.
This is a great book to look at stories and information about Swanzey. There's another one here called History of Swanzey. This is by Benjamin Reed, who was a resident of Swanzey and wrote quite a bit about all the different things in Swanzey.
Yeah, that's the official history done
Yeah.
in
And that's not even all.
1892.
I mean, that's just 1734 to 1890.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we need somebody to finish, Lee,
Yeah.
from 1890
boy.
on.
I'll tell you, you go looking to find stuff just after this, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
really hard.
It
to
is
do.
really hard, yeah. So there's some really great books out there on history of Cheshire County and Swanzey. Let me see. The other thing that I wanted to just mention was Monadnock Regional High School. Again, excellence. What is it, the saying that they have again? Excellence
in
through education.
Yeah.
You know, we are so lucky to have had people in our past that were so focused on educating the community and the students.
Yeah, there's a lot of good teachers there.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look back in when Monadnock first opened, a lot of teachers came out of the Swanzey schools and went to Monadnock.
Right.
And that's about the time that Mr. Bardis, I had Mr. Bardis for sixth grade.
Oh, who has just recently passed.
He passed away just
Yeah,
recently.
yeah.
I had him, my son had him.
Yeah.
Very good teacher.
Yeah. So what we've talked about today is the schools, Husky Pride, and we do have one final photograph to end with today. It is the Husky for the mascot for Monadnock.
That's what's on the basketball court.
Yeah.
That was painted by Deb Crowder.
Right.
Who graduated in, I'll get it wrong, but she was a couple of years ahead of me, so 74, might
Yeah.
be 73.
So this is a
But-
legacy.
Yeah, and she was the art teacher.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We're just so lucky. So thank you for joining us today on Swanzey Then and Now. We hope that you'll talk with your relatives and share stories and come back and visit us again. Thanks, Lee.